By 40 years after the Battle of Yavin, the Star Wars galaxy in Legends was once again on the brink of a civil war. What had started with one planet, Corellia, asserting its independence against the Galactic Alliance, the New Republic successor state, had spiraled into open warfare and a multi-system confederacy against the GA. Serving the Galactic Alliance and its secret police was Jacen Solo, son of Han and Leia and a colonel within the Galactic Alliance Guard. Ever since the Yuuzhan Vong War, Jacen had transformed from a peaceful, apprehensive, and thoughtful young man to one willing to do whatever it took to ensure ultimate galactic peace. This included arresting, torturing, and even killing innocents, while ultimately falling to the dark side, believing that only a true Sith could bring peace. His mentor during this time was a Sith known as Lumiya. Lumiya was actually an adversary of Luke Skywalker during the rebellion and was long thought killed. However, she had survived and went into hiding. The Dark Lady Lumiya helped push Jacen further down the dark side, and he eventually sought ultimate power. And there were two things Jacen had to achieve to become a Sith Master. He would have to both sacrifice or destroy something that he loved, and also secure a Sith apprentice. Let's talk about the latter. Jacen had identified, unsurprisingly, the much younger Ben Skywalker, son of Luke and Mara, as a potential apprentice. He messed with the teenager's head, sending Ben on missions where he would be forced to kill people, including ultimately an unprovoked and cold-blooded assassination of the Prime Minister of Corellia. As Jacen rose to power, both the Solos and the Skywalkers found his behavior incredibly concerning, and he began to clearly mirror the actions of his grandfather, Anakin. But even Jacen firing on his own parents during the Battle of Hapes was not enough to spur action. And truly, a failure to act would lead to the worst day in Luke Skywalker's life. Now, Luke, Grand Master at the time, was especially naive and convinced himself and Mara that Jacen was only acting the way he was because of the presence of Lumiya, who had made her presence known within the galaxy. Mara, however, former Emperor's Hand, was willing to do whatever necessary to protect her son, and soon she determined that Jacen might be acting on his own accord and was mentally prepared to kill him. She took this a step further after Ben heard Jacen meeting with Lumiya as he was hidden in the Force. Ben told Mara what had happened. She realized that the two were actually working in concert, and she set out to track and kill Jacen. The two found themselves within the Hapes cluster, where Mara brutally attacked Jacen, even at times gaining the upper hand. She was an incredible assassin due to her time under the Emperor. However, Jacen's raw force powers rivaled that of even Luke Skywalker, and those, as well as a set of poison darts, allowed him to kill his aunt. The death of Mara was felt by the entire Skywalker Solo family, including of course Luke. Luke naturally blamed Lumiya, probably the worst person in the galaxy who could have possibly done such a thing, at least for Luke's mental state, because Luke had just previously, weeks earlier, had the chance to kill her directly, but had relented when she promised that she had no desire to hurt him or his family. What's more, the two had a storied history. As I alluded to earlier, during the Alliance days, Lumiya, an Imperial spy, was inserted into the Rebel Alliance, and she betrayed Luke and his friends. The relationship made that much more complicated by the fact that the two had been lovers, and the fact that Luke had been the one to inflict the horrific injuries on Lumiya, which forced her to don the Darth Vader-style cybernetics. However, with the death of Mara, Luke would not make the same mistake again. Again, believing Lumiya was the murderer, he tracked her to the Hapes cluster, confronting her on the planet Terraphon. Now, this wasn't a sure victory for Luke. He was unprepared. Lumiya used a light whip, which was difficult to counter without a Shoto, a smaller lightsaber. The two had each won and lost battles against each other in their 40-year relationship, and had trained under countless strong Force users. Most importantly, Luke was held back by his goodness and the fact that he could almost never kill an enemy, even one as evil as Lumiya. Finally, despite the fact that Luke was undoubtedly more powerful, the Grand Master was without his Shoto, and Lumiya had a habit of using tricks and deception to escape death. However, in this battle, Luke was decisive, cold, and brutal. It was over quickly. Luke moved within the arc of Lumiya's light whip. He pushed her back powerfully, further and further, until she was at the edge of the cliff they were dueling on. As the side of the mesa crumbled and the Dark Lady began to fall, Luke reached out and pulled her back to safety, saying, "Lumiya, I'd never let you fall." However, with the unarmed warrior in his grasp, he chose to not show mercy and decapitated her with a single stroke. However, Lumiya hadn't killed Mara, something Luke discovered almost immediately afterwards, and he was filled with regret. He was only able to justify his actions, both to Ben, his son, and himself, because he was, for once, seeking true justice, and of course, removing a threat. But that's just a little bit of the Legacy of the Force era. If you enjoy this content, make sure to let me know down below by giving a like and a comment. If you've never heard of Legacy of the Force, any of these characters, if you have any questions, make sure to also leave that in the comments. Anyway, today's question of the day comes from J.R. Wolf, and he's right, this isn't really a question, but he does say he'd like me to cover Galaxy of Fear. So there are a bunch of young reader novels, Galaxy of Fear, Junior Jedi Knights, Young Jedi Knights, all of which I would like to read and to cover at some point in the future. Before that, however, I want to finish my reread of Legacy of the Force and Fate of the Jedi, and maybe go back and reread some of the X-Wing novels. Then I'll tackle some of the young reader stuff. Now, I haven't read all of the Galaxy of Fear books, and I don't think I've read any of the Junior Jedi Knight books, but one of my first EU books ever was one of the Young Jedi Knights, so I'm really looking forward to that. Plus, the YJK stuff actually plays into the New Jedi Order and beyond. Anyway, that's all for today. As always, this has been EckhartsLadder. Be safe, and may the Force be with you.